In our time, so every time the paper was same. So, right? So it's still part B will do it. I'll just recap quickly. That's all. Part B, 9 PB. Part B is very. They should actually remove this today. Think. So students, now in this case, the scope which I'm talking about it over here, just very quickly before we head to section number 9, the scope of the total income, always remember one thing. If you are an individual, then a resident is bifurcated into two categories. One is the resident, an ordinary resident, and the second category is resident but not ordinary resident, RNOR and RNNOR. That's the two categories that we have. So this is one thing that you should always bear it in mind. Now, if you are an RNOR, then the world income is taxable. Whereas if you are an RNNOR, then the foreign income, what is foreign income? The income which you have earned outside India and the income which you have received outside India, that foreign income is not taxable in India. Income which you have earned outside India, income which you have received outside India, that income is not taxable except for one, and that one is, that is, if you have any business outside India. Who has got a business outside India? R and NOR. An individual who is R and NOR. If that individual has got the business which is outside India, in that case there are two situations. There are two situations. There is, if an individual who is an R and NOR and has got a business which is outside India, but it is controlled or managed from India, in that particular case, we say that that business income will be taxable in India. But barring that, except that, no other foreign income will be taxable in India. No other foreign income will be taxable in India. That point clear. No other foreign income will be taxable in India except this. I hope that all of you are clear with this. Fine, students? That exactly is the point in this regard. Fair enough. R and NOR status, students, if you recall, now before we start doing section number 9, last point I'm just recollecting for all of you for the better memory. There were two cases of default R and NOR. That's how you should revise it. Random revision is very important revision. Revise R and NOR for individual. Which are the cases where an individual can be considered as an R and NOR? Two cases are the default R and NOR. Means in two cases where an individual becomes a resident, in two cases where the individual becomes a resident, automatically he will be considered as resident and not ordinary resident. He will be considered as what? As a resident but not ordinary resident. Two cases are there. Two cases are there, students. And other than these two cases, student, other than these two cases, as you all are aware, other than these two cases, there are additional tests. Two additional tests have to be satisfied. Okay, so just a quick recap, probably on this one, because if they will target only this particular part in your examination. And what exactly it is? So again, a very quick recap, although it is there in your notes. But still, before I proceed, I need 100% assurance that we are all in the same page so far as this concept is concerned. And that concept is, as you all are aware from, in this case, if I am talking of whom, an individual, if I am talking of an individual in this particular context, I think there was one page which was being given. Individual is a resident and not ordinary resident. In which case? So there are two specific cases. Two specific, and in all the other cases, all the other cases. So two specific are. Remember those two specific cases? One is a person of Indian origin or a citizen of India who comes in India for visit purpose. Citizen of India. Or a PIO family thus visit in India. Thus visit in India. What happens? In this case, the total income minus the foreign income is greater than or equal to 50 lakhs or greater than 50. That's exactly what I was talking about it, na? This confusion. Greater than or equal to or greater than is the point. So total income minus the foreign income greater than 15 lakhs. In this particular case, you will say that R and NOR if what? Previous year 23-24. Say for more than 120 days or minimum 120 days? Minimum 120 days. This is the problem. Plus last for preceding previous year. Say should be minimum 360. Previous year 23-24. Say for minimum 120 days plus last for preceding previous year. The stay should be minimum for 365 days. Hope that all of you are clear with this one. Is that clear to all of you? The second one, students, if you can recall, so R and NOR if these are the situation I have told you, and this is already given in your textbook, but still just These are very specific cases. This is the reason why. And the second one, students, which if you remember, this was 61A. Remember that? Citizen of India. This is a citizen of India. Citizen of India. And again the same thing. Plus the total income minus the foreign income minus the foreign income exceed rupees 15 lakhs. And one more thing. What is that? In that case, not liable to tax. Not don't use the phrase, never use the phrase liable to pay the tax. You have to use the phrase not liable to tax. Okay, yes. Not liable to tax, not liable to tax in any foreign country for any reason. Reason of a residence or domicile, etc. In that case also, students, what is that we are going to say? We are going to say that automatically you are what? You are R and NOR. Automatic. These are automatic tests. Okay. Therefore, this is what it is in this regard. So, in this situation, students, this is how it would be case. Others are, remember the 2 points which was there? That for all the other cases, an individual who is a resident, who is a resident, I assume that who is a resident, shall be considered as, considered as what? Considered as R and NOR. If what? If two things. Remember R and NOR means that he is a non-resident. He is a non-resident for less than 2 years in the last preceding 10 previous year. Less than 2, huh? Because if it is minimum 2, that is 1. So what I will say in this case, either this or this. So here I will write like this, that either this or this. See, the problem is this, that now see how the things changes. We are comfortable with R and OR test. And what is the R and OR test? What is our comfort? Comfort is this, that sir, if that person is R and OR, then we revise like this. We don't revise like R and OR. Remember, this is where the discomfort applies. Please understand your comfort zone and your discomfort zone. 99.99%, or if I'm not wrong, even if I have to say 100%, all the students will revise R and OR only. That's their comfort. Once you know, okay, this is the resident, then OR. So, two additional tests, and the two additional tests are minimum resident in the last 10 preceding previous year should be 2 years. Minimum resident. And the second one is 730 days. Minimum 730 days of stay in India in the last 7 preceding previous year. Both should be satisfied. Both the additional tests should be satisfied. You are in R and OR. But revise R and OR, that's the discomfort. And therefore, in this case, for R and OR, in this scenario, there is either an OR concept. What? Either he defaults on this, the first one, or the other one. And what is it? Either one. In this case, resident for less than 2 previous year, less than 2 previous year in last 10 preceding previous year. And what is it? Or stay in India for less than 730 days in last 7 preceding previous year. Last 7 preceding previous. Now I'm telling you why I have made you write this. Because I want all of you to revise henceforth not R and OR. Henceforth, R and NOR. Please understand the strategy what I'm following. When I made you learn through R and OR. But I don't want now to revise. We are concluded. Henceforth, we will not be going through all this. Okay? So revision has to be R and NOR. Is that point clear to all of you? This is your revision strategy. So students, this is the strategy that we are going to pursue. That when we learn in a conventional manner. But when we revise in unconventional manner. Because that unconventional manner is your left side of your brain. And the conventional manner is the right side of your brain. And to crack the CA final examination or to crack in your professional life, you need to use both. And that is an art. And believe me, students, this is going to take you a very long way. Not only in your CA final examination, great particular scoring, but more importantly, your professional career. You will see for yourself. If you do your tax practice, or maybe you are in a big four, see how these become so advantageous to all of you. People will struggle, you should be at ease. Let's proceed further. I hope that you have noted on this. As I 90% of you will majorly will do taxation work. As Harish Salve says, accounting is very boring. At this stage, when it comes to the practice arena, it's monotonous. I should not say it, but nevertheless, in practice, it becomes very monotonous after a point of time. Taxation evolves. There are still I'm learning with the interpretations and all, which goes in and all, and it's that satisfaction that it comes out with a new case study which has been put across. That is what it is, no? You are learning as R and OR, but suddenly when you are doing as R and NOR, your mind is thinking differently. When you have to now understand de facto control in that foreign company with the knowledge of shareholding control has got no relevancy, your mind evolves. That is how you should revise it. Revision is the key, students. That is a very important way. The way you revise it is ultimately will decide how you're going to see through your examination. That is one of the aspects that we will always keep in mind. Learn conventionally, revise unconventionally. So individual, only you will revise this. Okay, foreign company, I told you, wherever de facto is there, always keep that subsidiary company in mind. I'll keep on putting this feeder. Now, henceforth, I'm not going to take you through this, but I'll keep tossing on you this unconventional thought process. That is, it should stay alive. Please stay alive till the day of your examination. Thereafter, doesn't matter. Let's start with our big section. The biggest one, students, section number 9. Ultimately, you are all waiting for it. And this is all going to decide your journey to the international taxation, students. Welcome to the world of international taxation. Section number 9. Students, in this particular context, income deemed to accrue rise in India. This is the page number 1.29. Before that also it is given. All the summary has been given to you. Summary will do it. I'll run through the summary at the end. Right now I'm not interested in summary. Okay. So income deemed to accrue rise in India. Now students, I'll give you one example to start my discussion. In fact, I'll use the same example which I have given it to all of you. I gave you, many of you will hit this example in your lifetime. Get a job in Singapore. And you're taking your entire family to Singapore. In that original example, I told you, your parents were in India. You went there. You told your employer some money directly remitted in India. I told you how suicidal this approach is. Tell your employer in Singapore, directly put some money in India. Don't do that. Told you that, receive everything there, then remit. so that you don't end up paying tax in India once you become a non-resident in that foreign country. Similarly, I'm twisting that example a bit. You're getting a job in Singapore. You are deciding to take your entire family with you, parents and all. So the only issue is that home. You don't want to sell that home because you have had your childhood. Na? Obviously, in that particular case, that home which has been there in this particular context. But then at the same time, you don't want to keep it vacant also. You don't want to keep it vacant also. So what do? You have to let it out. Made a lot of try or an attempt to let out that home that you had. Unfortunately, you could not find any tenant, and time was running out. You have to leave to Singapore. And it's fine. We'll see later on when they come. We'll see that time. Move, lock your door, move to Singapore. Then while you are in Singapore, students, you found an Indian. He wanted the home in India, in that place only where your home was there. See the coincidence. These are the destinies of life. Not in your hand, destiny. Therefore, he wanted that particular a home in that same particular city. You said that I had already a home. I was trying so much in India, I didn't find anyone. And now I found in Singapore a person in India, an Indian, who wants a home for his parents for the purpose of let out. Rent means he want to get a property on rent. You said that I am ready to give it to you. So both of you and your friend in Singapore, decide enter into a agreement there itself. As for the agreement, you said that look, I am ready to give you a rent. At least we will have something in paper with our signatures, so that tomorrow if something happens, at least there is a written agreement between both of us. And on that basis, he agrees that I'll give you $1,000 in Singapore. In Singapore itself, I will pay you. So I will not bother my parents to pay you. I'll pay you here itself. Property was in Hyderabad. Question therefore is, he is getting now monthly rent. He is a non-resident already. His stay in India is not more than 182 days. Your stay, I'm taking your example only. So you are a non-resident, and now you are getting rent in Singapore from your friend, $10,000, whatever. $10,000, students, you are getting it as a rent per annum in Singapore. Where that rental income is said to have accrued. Where that rental income is said to have accrued. Srinath, where it is said to have accrued, students, rental income. We'll not talk about taxability right now, only accrued I just need to know. The location where it got accrued. That is only right now I'm interested. Location where it got accrued. Accrual part. So all of you agree on this one? Ask in fact, your boss also this particular question. I'm sure you same answer. They will say it is accrued in India. And why is it so? Accrued in India. And why is it so? Because the property is situated in India. Isn't it? So that is what is accrual part. Do test these things, students. And you should test this thing with your bosses. But don't tell him, don't hurt their ego. By the end of it, you have to go on your leave as well, isn't it? But then we should realize that if he can become a CA, then you also can become. That realization will creep in. So there is a lot of fallacy in this case. So therefore, students, what is exactly the game? The game is this rental income is accrued where? In Singapore. Many of you think, but sir, property is in India. You people are going one step further. Without a foundation, you went ahead. Where is the foundation? You said the property is in India, therefore the rent is accrued in India. How that is there? The property was there in India at that point of time when you were also there in India. Were you in a position to give your property on rent? You made a lot of attempt, isn't it? You were there in India at that point of time. You made a lot of attempt. Were you in a position to give your property on rent at that time? No. In spite of your extra effort, extreme effort, you were not in a position to give your property on rent. Therefore, what gave rise to rental income was not the property, but it is the lease agreement. It is the agreement which has given rise to the rent. Property was there, na? And property will remain. Just because the property is there, will you get a rent? There need to be what? An agreement of lease. This is what is a source of your rental income. This is what has given rise to the rental income. And if that is the case, then the next question that arises is where this agreement was entered. Where it was entered? Singapore. You and your friend, written agreement, emphasis supplied in my example. Where you entered this agreement? In Singapore. So therefore the agreement was in Singapore, and hence the agreement which has given rise to the rental income is in Singapore. Accordingly, accrual also is in Singapore. Where is the receipt? Where you have received it? You have received it in Singapore. So both accrued is outside India, received is outside India, not taxable in India. You realize this then? How easy then it is to shift what? The accrual from India. You realize that? How easy it is to shift the accrual from India. What do? Do your agreements outside India. Do your agreement outside India and accrued outside India, receive it also outside India. And accordingly, you are outside. You being a non-resident, you are outside from the tax net at the first place. Just a flight ticket. Or maybe if you are already outside India, that's it. So it was such an easy measure to shift the place of accrual from India to outside India. Isn't it? And hence the concept of deemed accrual has been introduced. The word is deemed, which means the deeming fiction. A fiction is introduced therefore. So never ever when you write in your examination, use section 9 as income accrued in India. It is income which is deemed to accrue or rise in India. Deemed is the key word in section number 9. Otherwise, what was the necessity of section number 9? There was no necessity. If that is so simple in this regard, no necessity at all. You said income accrued in India, they would not have even defined it. They were compelled to define it because they understood the impact of a simple accrual can easily be taken out or thrown out of India by just merely doing an agreement outside India. Accrual is gone outside India. Received is also outside India. Nothing is done. India will have the tax base being eroded outside India. What will happen? What will happen? The tax base. Tax base will, in this case, erosion will take place. Where? Outside India. Isn't it? These are some technical word which I'm using it right now. You'll appreciate as we proceed further. Or may I use this word? Base erosion. Base erosion. Profit shifting. Ponder over it throughout the day today, along with your bosses. Base erosion, profit shifting. You all agree to this? This example exactly is this only. See the phrase here, feel the phrase of it. Base erosion. Erosion from where? In India. Profit shifting. Where? Outside India. And why you choose Singapore? You also know. You may not be aware of it, but later, very soon, in next year, when you become a CA, you people will be aware. Singapore tax rate is 10%. So it's a low tax jurisdiction as compared to India. So therefore, being that thing, so easily people are shifting their profits in these countries. And accordingly, in this context, students, this has become a very critical part. And hence to check these base erosion, profit shifting, that section 9 has been introduced, which speaks about what? Income which is deemed to accrue or rise in India. Students, now since I'm putting so much of emphasis on this word deemed in your examination now, not only for this, I'm putting a emphasis only in one place. But my point to all of you is this, that in your examination, or as we proceed further, wherever the word deemed comes now, you mark it in your last page. I already told you this exercise, isn't it? Wherever the section which has got deemed, you will write it at the end. That look, boss, this is deemed, which means, and I'm telling you, 80 to 90% students will refer section 9 as income accrued or rise in India. You will never do that. Income deemed to accrue or rise in India is what would be your answer, and the word deemed has to be underlined. That's clear to all of you. Section 9. Income deemed to accrue or rise in India. The word deemed, please underline that. And now you already know the emphasis. Now what you are saying now, what you gave me the answer is the second step. Therefore, they have to introduce this. Now, what you people said to me, sir, the property is in India. That's how even the government felt it. But law, students, as you know, law if of accrual is outside India. This is exactly what happened in 2012 case of the Supreme Court, wherein Harish Salve won the case of Vodafone. Heard of that Vodafone judgment, students? 12,000 crore of the tax dispute. I will share with you, not right now, the speech of the then Finance Minister, Mr. Pranab Mukherjee. And you can feel that pain and the agony of the government. How, without a provision, they made it as an accrual in India, but they were in the second step. What you people said to me, the answer. Just briefly, because Vodafone will come later on in our discussion, maybe after 2 or 3 class later. But just briefly, you should understand, you jumped to second step and I proved you wrong. How I proved you wrong? The law of accrual is outside India. How it is? Because the agreement has taken place outside India. But you said, no sir, asset is situated in India. That is therefore deemed to have accrued in India. This is what happened in Vodafone also. Same feeling was there, the way you felt, same feeling even government had. But they went to second step. But there was no law. There was no such deeming fiction introduced. Supreme Court said that, boss, nothing can be taxed. Because at the first stage, accrual is not in India. Although your feelings are there, we also conquer that the economic advantage they are getting from an asset in India, from a business in India. But where is the law? There is no law of deeming provision. Therefore, a lot of changes happened. What are those changes? We will see in that 2-3 classes more. There you will come to know what this deemed is. But presently, students, just keep in mind this deemed word is very critical. I just very quickly Just I strike to me. I read it once. Very quickly, interesting part. Deemed is defined actually in a dictionary, Black Law Dictionary. Don't go dictionary of this thing, but when you practice at a very high level, you refer that dictionary, Black Law Dictionary, DLACK, Law Dictionary. But later on, they have defined the word deemed in a very beautiful way. This is how they have defined the word deemed, so that at least you should also feel the relevance of this provision, and this provision has to be taken very, very seriously, students. And what they have said in that word, they have said this. The definition I'm talking about it. So, what is the definition? What is. What is not is. And what is not is. If law says, that's where the deeming fiction comes into. Where it comes, what is not is. If law says so. So if the law says a boy is deemed to be a girl, so be it. You will not question it further. You will not then question it further. Deemed, na? That's it. The law has the capability of even a gender change. That's what I said to you. If a boy is deemed to be a girl, so be it then. You cannot now question it further. If law says deemed to be something, so what is not is. If law says, I told you, is it an accrual? I proved it. No, it's not an accrual. Where? Why? Because accrual is in Singapore. But is it deemed to have accrued in India? Yes, it is deemed to have accrued in India. But they are the deeming fiction at least should have some sanity, because Supreme Court in Ishikawa Jima Hariyama Industries Limited 2007 judgment is this. Don't have to worry about this. They have said that you cannot blindly put up something unless you establish some nexus with India. Establish a nexus. Even a deeming provision will require a nexus. Just you cannot tax it because you have to tax it. You cannot tax it because you have to tax it. Establish a nexus with India. Then even a deeming provision should have some nexus with India. And now what is the nexus? In your step 2, what you people said to me, you gave me the answer, na? You gave me the answer based on the nexus theory. And the nexus was property was situated in India. Asset was situated in India. That is the nexus theory. But please be careful. Nexus does not always lead to accrual. I have proved it. My example that even though there was a nexus with India, it cannot be still be considered as accrued in India. Okay, but because that there was a nexus, can the government introduce a deeming provision? But without a nexus, can they come up with a deeming provision? No. Nexus is required in a taxation law, territorial nexus. Otherwise, you will be considered as a rogue nation in the worldwide. That without every country, because if India wants to enforce a taxability, no, it means some country has to give up then. Otherwise, there will be double taxation. India would want to tax even Donald Trump. India want to tax anyone who is earning everywhere. Greed is there for taxation. Do you have a nexus? Even a deeming provision also you cannot tax him. Establish some nexus, na? Then you introduce a deeming provision, then tax him. Without an excess with India, how can you tax it? That is one thing, students, you should be always be very clear in your mind. So therefore now, students, the conclusion is this, that section 9 is a deeming provision for a non-resident taxation. Anything that you will write has to be income deemed to accrue rise in India. The first example, students, that you have given to me in this example is that yes, house property is situated in India, then rent income arising from that house property is deemed to have accrued or rise in India. Deemed. Deemed. Never say accrual. Deemed to have accrued or rise in India. I hope that all of you are clear with this one now. If that is the case, then let me then give you one case study and see how ICF plays with it. Beautifully, they will play it in the examination. Write one case study. I dictate a case study, student. Yes, yes. That is, Ram, what you're saying, na? Base erosion, profit shifting. You will find many. I'll just give you one example. Section 9, right now. Base erosion, profit shifting. One example I gave you, section 9. Now I will unleash as we go forward where you are finding what? Base erosion from India. India is silent because it's BEPS, BEPS. What we will refer this as BEPS. It is, in this case, BEPS is what will be referred as. Okay? This is only one. This is actually a term which has been used by OECD. United Nations OECD. Heard of it? Not heard? We'll explain it later on. OECD part. So, BEPS. Base erosion from India, which is happening, and the profit is getting shifted. And where it is shifted, anyone will know. Obviously, you will shift your profit where? In a low tax jurisdiction. In a low tax jurisdiction. In my example, it is Singapore, 10% country. I'll keep telling you in this particular case. Herein, many countries. Let me reserve some more examples later on. Otherwise, will be in this only I will unleash all the examples. So this is what it would be. So point is that, friends, Ram, what you're asking the question over here is that this base erosion profit shifting, because of that, section 9 is one thing. There are other cases which I will prove it to you. Let's see this section. Now you will also appreciate that because the India tax base getting erosion and the profit is getting shifted elsewhere, therefore India introduced this provision to protect what? Its tax base. Do India has a right, legitimate right to introduce those sections? Yes, India has a legitimate right to protect its tax base, provided what? They have a territorial nexus with that income. That nexus is the key. You cannot blindly introduce it. So what is the nexus here? You said it, sir. Property is in India. That is the nexus. House property is in India, no? I'll give you one case study and see how right side brain, left side brain comes into picture. Now we have learned in this way, but ICA will ask in different way. Take one case study, all of you will dictate a case study. Dictate a case study, every one of you will copy down this. British Airways, British Airways and and Kenya Airlines, Kenya Airlines, comma, both the foreign companies, both the foreign companies, both the foreign companies has entered, both the foreign companies has entered into an agreement in London, an agreement in London, as per which as per which, comma, British Airways British Airways will will let out to Airlines Kenya Airlines its landing equipments situated in the Indian airport. In the Indian airport. For this purpose, for this purpose, Kenya Airlines. For this purpose, Kenya Airlines shall pay Kenya Airlines shall pay the higher charges shall pay the higher charges of USD $25,000 or USD 25,000 to British Airways in UK. In UK. Full stop. British Airways and Kenya Airlines are non-resident and they do not have and they do not have any physical presence in India. Any physical presence in India. Full stop. Whether Kenya Airlines is required to deduct TDS under section 195. Read the question once. Have you all read it? Why insurance? So this is a reality. British Airways has got huge business, airline business in India. Like if you just talk about Mumbai airport, and I'm sure other airports also will have similar traffic, if not more. Like twice they are hitting to Mumbai airport. Two times in a day. Mumbai, London, London, Mumbai. Two times they're doing it. One in the afternoon, other is midnight. Just imagine, and every 7 days, 365 days a week, 365 days a year, a foreign aircraft hitting twice in the Indian airport, and that to Mumbai airport. I'm talking about it. It's a direct flight. I'm not talking about in Delhi. I don't know what will be the position in Delhi. Delhi also would be maybe more. So could also be maybe Hyderabad also, Chennai, Bangalore, some of the important airports. May not be two, at least one, whatever it be. You can just imagine the kind of business that these people are getting. UAE and Emirates and all. Imagine their traffic in Indian airports. There would be a huge one. But airline like a Kenya Airlines comes twice a week. Imagine for them, aircraft they require landing equipments. When they touch down the airport, then obviously landing equipments are required, isn't it? But just imagine Kenya Airlines, they are only coming thrice a week, three times only in a week. They may not have full-fledged fleet of their facilities in India. They will not have it. And they don't want to have it. Why? It will become unnecessarily costly for them. Only coming thrice a week and then maintaining a fleet. White elephant. What is better than enter with that another airline which is having those fleet? And they found British Airways. And they found that British Airways, yeah, you have got your full fleet of equipment of operation in the Indian airports. So let us enter into an agreement. As per the agreement, what? As per the agreement, now the Kenya Airlines will be making a payment because they will be allowed to use that whenever your airline will touch down, you can use our facilities, equipment. Remember now this G20 happened? Air Force One landed. Okay, so Joe Biden came down and all the dignitaries, Air India has given their landing equipment. He did not jump no, from he jumped in and really came. They come down in this case. Just check the logos there. Observe these things. So there it was Air India. So they are giving them the landing equipment. Same way, British Airways are also giving the landing equipments to Kenya Airlines. Use our landing equipment. Therefore, obviously at a charge is $25,000 per month. That is the charge that they fixed. Now the question to all of you is, Kenya Airlines, when they are making the payment, on the payment, whether 195 TDS will it be required or not. This is the game. Now I want to introduce 195 at the very outset before we hit section 9. Why? In non-resident taxation, you cannot divorce 195 with any section relating to a non-resident. 195 in all your discussion will have to coexist. 195 section. Why? Because it sets what? The obligation on whom? On the payer of the amount, the one who makes the payment. To whom they are making the payment? They are making the payment to non-resident. So 195 is setting out what? The obligation on whom? On the payer of the amount to deduct the TDS. But that is 195. So one, there is a non-resident who is earning the income in India, but it is receiving that income from someone. Na? So that someone who is the payer, Do they have the obligation to deduct the TDS? That is always you should keep in mind while you discuss any NR taxation. So I don't want to do 195 at the end. I want to do 195 at the start so that in all the section that we are going to take it further, I will keep on asking you, tell me 195 applicable. And this is because how you are going to get your examination question. This is how you are going to witness what? Witness your professional journey. So what will happen to, do you know, 195, otherwise it will come so late that I cannot revise unconventionally. I could revise residential status like this. I cannot revise again everything in a reverse manner. So the best approach is what? Take 195 at the very outset, then move on. Let's do 195 and you should be in a position to answer it. If I am giving you something at the very outset, that is with some purpose. You purpose that you people will be in a position to answer it. You people will be in a position to answer it, students. And therefore, page number for section 195 for all of you is 1.68. 1.68, students. Now, this is 190 page number 1.68. 68, page 68. Now, students, I want all of you read 1.68 and in 1.69 up to point number 2. Means before point, like up till here, A and B. In 1.69 up till where? First paragraph. That is A and B. I don't want point number 2 to be discussed. You don't have to read time of deduction, payment subject to tax deduction. That is not required. Only up till A and B. Start reading, students, peacefully this section. One more thing, just to avoid the complications. Can you see in the bracket pay for paying interest? In the bracket there is other than interest referred in 194 LV, second line only. Other than interest referred in 194 LV, LCLD, ignore it for a time. Don't delete it, ignore it. So just you'll read like this. You'll read like this, students. Any person responsible for paying interest directly jump to or any other sum chargeable to that. Okay, like that you have to read. Ignore for the time being the content in the bracket. Can you just make one correction? In explanation number 2, 19.1, just make it 195. 195. 195 subsection 1. The explanation 2, you can see 19.1. It's not 19.1, it is 195 subsection. Okay. So students, tell me, what do you think? The first observation. Whether Kenya Airlines, will they be required to deduct the TDS in this case? Why you all say so? Kenya Airlines students? Hmm? Your take, Ashika. But why you people are say main focus is on the pair? Huh? I could not get the first one. What is your said initially? The initial words? What was? No, you said in your explanation initial words was what? All students herein that the focus point is what students? Yes, the pair, maybe. Perfect, perfect, Ram. So this is exactly the point. Students, pair exactly you said it, resident, non-resident, we don't care. Who is a pair? What is to be seen is this. In the hands of the pay means the receiver, non-resident, pay non-resident, whether, what is the second line? What is the second line, students? Or any other, is the payment in the nature of interest? What you are paying, Kenya Airlines, what they are paying, is it an interest? No. What it is a any other sum chargeable to tax. Prove it. It is any other sum chargeable to tax. How do you prove that this, which is a sum which is paid to British Airways, is chargeable to tax? How do you prove it? Go to section 9. Now, when I'm in section 9, now I need to check whether in the what British Airways is receiving, being a non-resident, whether British Airways, which is receiving being a non-resident, is it chargeable to tax under the Act? So what is the step? First step for the what is the first step for it? The first step for it to decide whether for a British Airways, which is a non-resident, is it an income which is deemed to accrue as in India? Because only if it is an income which is deemed to accrue as in India, then only we can say it is chargeable to tax in India. How do you establish that this is an income which is deemed to accrue as in India? Because it is a higher charges received in respect of what? In respect of an asset or a property which is situated in India. Because it is an asset or a property which is situated in India, therefore the higher charges which the British Airways is receiving is an income which is deemed to accrue rise in India and hence chargeable to tax under the Act. And if it is chargeable to tax under the Act, then the payer, whosoever he or she may be, whether that payer may be a resident or the payer may be a non-resident, the payer will come under the obligation to deduct the TDS. Further, as per explanation number 2 to section 195 subsection 1, we don't care that the payer, if that payer is a non-resident, we don't care. We don't care on what? That the payer, does he have any physical presence in India? Whether the payer has got any place of residence in India, whether the payer has got any business connection with India, we don't care. We only care on one thing. What is that one thing? That the sum which is received by the non-resident payee, that sum which is received by the non-resident payee should be an income which is chargeable to tax under the Act in the hands of the payee. Payee means British Airways in my example. In the hands of the payee. If this is satisfied, then payer, whosoever the payer may be, resident, non-resident, we don't care. Payer will come under the obligation to. And further, we also don't care if the payer is a non-resident, whether that payer, you don't have to inquire it, whether the payer, do you have any physical presence in India? Do you have a place of business in India? Do you have a business connection in India? All these are nonsense questions. You don't have to ask all these things. Your only focus has to be the payee non-resident who is receiving this income, whether that income is chargeable to tax under the Act. For that you have to travel to which section? Section 9. Section 9 tells you the income of a non-resident which is deemed to accrue rise in India and hence chargeable to tax under the Act. This is how you have to think. So, chargeable, if I may push you to write for this, what you will refer it? Or any other sum chargeable to tax? In the bracket, can you write then next to that itself? That is section 9. Refer section 9. To prove or to establish whether the sum is chargeable to tax for a non-resident payee, which section you will refer it? Section 9. The simple things, so everyone will know it is chargeable or not. But complicated things for chargeability, because we don't know whether it is accrued in India or not. It may or may not. But then, if not accrued, then deemed accrual. Chargeability is established in section 9, the deemed accrual part. And from that you will know what? Yes, it is chargeable or not. And if it is, then Mr. Payer, you cannot escape. Whether Mr. Payer will say, I am a non-resident. We don't care. Mr. Payer, you may be a resident or non-resident. Now, Payer is, okay, I am non-resident, but I don't have any physical presence in India. I don't have any business connection in India. I don't have any territorial nexus with India. Be careful now what I am saying. Payer is saying, I don't have any territorial nexus with India. Government says what to the payer? We don't care. We only are concerned with the territorial nexus with the payee. Only with payee we are interested to get this answer. That whether payee has for his income any nexus with India or not. And if they have got a nexus with India, therefore their income is chargeable to tax in India. Therefore we have got the right to tax that income in India. Mr. Payer, whosoever you may be, we don't care. And you cannot take the shelter, you cannot take the defense that I am a non-resident making a payment to that person who is also a non-resident, although his income may be chargeable in India, but I being the payer, I don't have any physical presence in India, I don't have any business connection in India, I don't have any territorial nexus with India. These explanations will not save the payer from its obligation to deduct the TDS. Payer will have to deduct the TDS. But you may say, but sir, how practically it is possible? In this case, payer may be in a foreign country. Think of it. This situation. In this case, foreign country. He doesn't have any physical presence in India. Oh, the payer is paying an income to another non-resident, and this income is deemed to accrue as in India by Section 9. So how that payer is going to deduct TDS? And if he doesn't deduct TDS, what the government of India can do? What they can do it or what they cannot do it, we will reserve this discussion in a topic known as double taxation avoidance agreement. In those agreements will tell you whether the Indian government can take any sort of action on that particular non-resident. Right now, please don't evolve to that level. In this case, we'll reserve the discussion to that. Right now, our focus is Mr. We only need to focus that if the payee non-resident, the receiver non-resident, if he receives any income which is chargeable to tax under the act, which will be established as per the section 9 operation, in that case, irrespective whosoever payer that person may be, resident or non-resident, and if the payer is a non-resident, the payer, even if he does not have any physical presence, business connection, place of residence, or any territory with India, still that payer will be under the obligation to deduct the TDS. Times have changed, students, from 2012 to 2023. Right now, we are in. Big thing has with this G20, which has happened, is the reality. No big companies can escape from the obligation. May not be aware of it. The government had made a lot of agreements of such nature, and no country today can say no to India. That is the power that we have evolved. Dare it to say, don't dare it that you don't enter into an agreement of such nature. Even Switzerland has entered an agreement. Switzerland at one time, which was so notorious for the Swiss bank. Heard of Swiss bank? The passing reference. Now there is no Swiss bank. Swiss bank is always there in Zurich. Swiss bank is always there. A bank, B bank, collectively they are known as Swiss bank. The point of Swiss bank was secrecy. They will not divulge who is that owner. Now can they do it? No, they can't. With any country, leave aside even India. Even with India. US, can they withhold any information to India? This provision was introduced in 2012. At that point of time, people were wondering how this is possible. How a particular, I said the same example, a foreign company in that country. Which country? In those countries. It doesn't have a physical presence in India. Although they are making a payment to whom? To another non-resident whose income is deemed to have accrued in India. So question may arise in your mind, sir, that person who is making the payment, he doesn't have a physical presence in India. How he will deduct the TDS? Question arises in your mind in this case. And if he doesn't deduct TDS and doesn't pay to the government anything, what the government can do it? This was a very valid question in 2012. Today the time has changed. Which country can say no to it? This is a master stroke in G20. I was watching from this thing. Such a master stroke that has been played. All the big nations have fallen in line. And the best part is the notorious country could be in somewhere in South America. Countries like Argentina, Brazil and all, they were all kept on board. Most other notorious country could be from the Africa. So what happened? They made the African Union as a G20 member. Entire African Union they made as a G20 member. So now it will be G21. So where you will escape, at least not in this earth, you may have to travel down to moon. If you are a non-resident of foreign company and you don't put an obligation to deduct TDS. But now even moon is not the safe haven. Government can land up over there also because 12,000 crore if they have to collect it in this case and moon landing cost is 600 crores. The government will say, okay, 600 crores, we'll land up to the moon to collect our 12,000 crores from. Maybe sun, there is no place. Death, even after death, they can still collect the taxes. This means government will also die to meet you in the heaven? No. From your legal representative who inherits your asset. In that there is already a charge of government of India. Therefore, you will conclude, say that only two things are certain in life. One is death and another is tax. Two things are certain in life, death and tax. The reality. Taxes are more severe than death. You will come to know as you will proceed further in your professional journey. Take a note of it, students, in your answer. Give you the answer. Now see how you answer these questions. Question, see how deceptive is the question, takes you to 195 and you think only 195. But the core of your answer is section 9. Because you have to prove it that the income is chargeable to tax under the act in the hands of the non-resident. Once that is done, you are sorted. Then Mr. Payer, blindly you can say, Mr. Payer, you will be required to do your TDS. You'll say no, but I am this, I am that. I am not listening you anymore now. I am only was concerned with what? Whether this income is chargeable to tax under the act or not. Once that has been proved, I am not listening to you anymore. To whom? To the payer. The defense being non-resident, we don't care. Defense being no physical presence, business connection, place of residence, territorial nexus, don't care at all. We were only concerned on one thing. That is it. Write the answers in point, friends. Point number 1. As per say, open up with 195. From there you pick up that relevant word and then you put it in the second point. And then evolve section 9. You directly don't jump to section 9, huh? Because then the link is not there. Because the direct question is 195. So approach would be pull that word of 195 which takes you to section 9. And then conclude with 195 only. So first is that relevant para of 195 which can take you to second point on section 9, and then once section 9 is established, then conclude by 195. Is that the flow clear in your mind? This is how you should write your answer. Please write. Point number 1. As per section 195 subsection 1, where a pair, where a pair where a pair makes a payment, where a pair makes a payment to a non-resident, to a non-resident or to a foreign company to a non-resident or to a foreign company, interest, interest or any other sum, interest or any other sum chargeable to tax, any other sum chargeable to tax under the act, Again, any other sum chargeable to tax under the act. Like this. Hmm? This error will also happen on the last lecture also. Perfectly fine. But don't do this error in the examination. Any other sum chargeable to tax under the act. Now students, one as a matter of a practice for your DT paper, IDT paper or audit paper, whatever it be, have the habit of highlighting or underlying that particular part of the provision which is the basis of the explanation further or the question itself. So here it is. Any other sum chargeable to tax under the act. Please underline this. I know you will underline even this is not only for your notebook presentation. In the examination also, this is the approach. You write this much provision, but keywords are there only. You only cannot write two keywords. You have to write at least some provision. No? But keywords are there, so that keywords you should underline. Why I'm telling you, examiner don't read all. I can tell you that some of that students that 94 marks, that student who scored 94 marks in DT, a best paper award winner. I could see his answer, the way the examiner is corrected. How he is corrected? Do you know how he is corrected? Initial questions, I was seeing his tick marks for all the paragraph that he is writing. And he was giving the full marks because he got 94. Obviously, that was a game. And later on, after say 50% or 40%, don't remember, it was 2014-15. Later on, I saw the tick mark of the examiner was only in the first paragraph, or maybe in between, or maybe at the end. It was therefore meaning the seriousness of the tick marks initially was missing towards the end. But marks was getting full. So what he was trying to get into it is that he knew the candidate, the level of this candidate initially. Once he knew, he was then only interested to know whether there was a crux has been picked up or not. And that is the reason why I again keep repeating this point that your initial question has to be your best of the question. Like Vishal, if you see that guy whose photo you will find at the end. In fact, one of his interview I will also share with all of you. In your textbook, you will find it towards the end. Vishal AIR1 got it. So his interview, I've taken it. At that time, I'll just share with you his interview. This guy, do you know what he did? He started with question number 7. The last question. That is the technique. One of the reason he said that, sir, maybe one of the reason I could have got it AIR1 was only because of this. Even though it is question number 7, so be it. Doesn't matter. But your initial questions has to be the best of your question now. That point clear to all of you? Therefore, just keep these small points in mind because these are the very critical point and therefore underline those key particular pointers. Fine? Please start writing. Now, you have one line, huh? Last line, last. Chargeable tax under the Act, comma. The payer shall be under the obligation. The payer shall be under the obligation to deduct the TDS. Payer shall be under the obligation to deduct the TDS. Point number 2. As per section 9, write like this, students. As per section 911, we are hitting the first clause. There are 8 clauses which are there, students. Right now, I am hitting the first one. As per section 911, income is deemed to have accrued or arise in India if if it is in relation to comma inter alia. Again it came the magical word. Remember that word inter alia, magical word which I took you through second class amongst other things. Now 911, if you see students, there are some 4 or 5 things. Today we are doing asset in India. Tomorrow we are going to do business connection in India. Thereafter, day after tomorrow, we are going to do indirect transfers in India. Transfer of capital assets situated in India. So there are multiple layers. Right now, for this question, I'm not going to write everything on this. Business connection in India, asset in India has got no relevance. We just only want to write what has been asked. Use the word. Which is the word? If it is in relation to inter alia, comma, use word comma, thereafter inter alia, again comma, asset or property situated in full stop. Right further. Therefore, in the present case, the higher charges, the higher charges paid, the higher charges paid by Kenya Airlines to British Airways is chargeable to tax, chargeable to tax under the act, under the act, in the hands of British Airways, under the act, in the hands of British Airways as the said payment, as the said payment is in respect of, as the said payment is in respect of an asset or property situated in India. Point number 3 now. Point number 3. Accordingly, Kenya Airlines being the payer of the amount, Kenya Airlines being the payer of the amount will be required to deduct the TDS under section 195 under section 195, notwithstanding the fact, notwithstanding the following facts, notwithstanding the following facts. Point number one, that the Kenya Airlines is a non-resident. Students, one more thing. Like, I'm using the abbreviation Kenya Airlines, K. Okay. Now in the examination also, na, better. You have to be smart also in your very right. Initial word you have to write first Kenya Airlines, British Airways. Initial first or second line you will write, but you will also know that might be you have to repeat these names again and again. British Airways, two words. Why I should write two words? P-A-K-A. Let's make it simple. Yeah. Initially British Airways, so where two words, na? See, had it been Ajit, Aman, so you cannot write A, B. You have to write the name. But British Airways, Kenya, like two words are there. Na? Again, repeating the SSC by two or three names has got no sense. It's just a suicidal approach. And the smartness is what? First, Kenya Airlines full, British Airways full, but in the bracket BAK. And henceforth then B and K should only be used. So as these are the some of the various common things that you should always know. As I told you students, up to November 2023 attempt which is going to happen, you will hear this thing in your ears that PT paper is very lengthy. Okay, May 24 we will come to know primarily because the pattern I think should be the same in this context. They will not change primarily what has been there, but still. But at least not only for DT, for all the papers I'm talking about, be it auditing or be it your other indirect tax law, which is you are writing it, please keep this point in mind that if SSC has got only one word, name, that is it, fine, you use that thing. But don't, if two or three words is a trap, and therefore make it abbreviated in the first particular. First you write, one time only you write, make abbreviated, take it further. Okay. So first point is that Kenya Airlines is a non-resident. Point number two, being a non-resident, Kenya Airlines does not have a physical presence, place of business, or business connection. Being a non-resident, Kenya Airlines does not have a physical presence, place of business, or business connection in India. Fine, students? So this is what it is at the end of it, students. So with that, we are done with this particular part completely. And what we have completed, students, is first aspect of section 911. Inter alia I have written. Na? So what is it inter alia? 911 has got three things. We have to do 8 clauses in all of section 9. 911 is the first clause. But in 911 there are three things. Three things are: income is deemed to accrue in India. What we have done right now? Income is deemed to accrue in India if it is in relation to an asset or a property or a source situated in India. In fact, that first example which I opened up for all of you, house property in India, that was it. But that is very initial to break the conversation. But these are the real life examples. With linked with 195, the obligation on the part of the payer of the amount, whether the payer will they be required to deduct the TDS or not. Those are the things, students, that you have to be capturing. This is how you will put it. And once you have graduated with this 911, the second limb, which we will do tomorrow, would be the business connection. And thereafter, the third limb would be, in this case, would be the income is deemed to accrue in India if it is in relation to transfer of a capital asset situated in India. Okay, really a great particular thing would be there. So tomorrow we will complete the business connection. We will go to internet transfer. This is the only biggest section that we are doing it. Thereafter 912, 913 are smaller one. 915, 6 and 7 again are a very important bigger section. And once that has been set, the next particular unfold that we are going to do would be double taxation treaties and all. So that is what we are going to do. See you then tomorrow, students. Fine. 6:30 in the morning.